bugging people out. I'm trying to move my windows around so I can see them all. So ignore your screen for a second.
Okay, well, good morning, everybody, and welcome. This is our how to use Google tools. They're free to help your nonprofit communicate and collaborate. And this workshop was originally scheduled to be a conference, live conference workshop on May 6th as part of our annual capacity building conference. And we had a pandemic, and so we weren't allowed to have a conference. And so we've decided to take the workshops that people rated during a survey we did around the same time to find out what would be most useful. We've taken those that were rated most useful and we've turned them into virtual Zoom workshops. And I'm thankful to the speakers that were willing to do that. And I'm thankful to those of you who are still willing to come and be part of this, to be part of the workshop and to be part of this capacity building work. This is part of a series. I see a lot of familiar names and faces here that have been to other workshops in this series. We still have a couple left. We're going to do one on short-term strategic planning here in a couple weeks. And we are going to do one on managing yourself and your time, especially with working from home and with all the changes in the world, in another couple weeks after that. So be sure to follow us on Facebook, because we not only put information about these programs and other programs that we have, but information about anything relevant to the nonprofit world these days, we're passing along on our Facebook page. So without further ado, I'll introduce Andrea. Andrea Shirey is the principal at OneNine Design, and she focuses on website design and digital communication tools for small business and also especially for nonprofits. Andrea has a long history of nonprofit leadership and fundraising. So she understands nonprofits very well and what they need to do, what they can do, and what their challenges are. And so she is the perfect person to present this workshop here today. So Andrea, I'm going to kick it over to you.
All right, thank you. Well, thank you all for making time to be on this morning. I was telling Amy that I was a little more nervous to deliver the content this way. I've obviously spoken in person lots of times, and I think I just feel so passionately about making sure that nonprofits have the tools they need, that I really want this to come across as effective. And so if at any time you need us to adjust, you need me to go back a slide or slow down or speed up or whatever, please use that chat. And I'm gonna thank Amy in advance for helping me manage that. I've got like 16 windows open. Hopefully you can only see the right one. If at some point the screen looks weird, please tell me, and be patient with me. This is not going to be all slides. I'm gonna be showing these things in action. So it may take me a second to make sure you see the right thing. So I'll just ask for your grace in advance. Also, if you see me looking this way, that's because I see all of you over here, but my slides are in front of me. So just ignore my little window in your Zoom squares. So as Amy said, I have the goal to give nonprofits the digital tools that you need to reach more people and make a bigger impact. This really wraps up my mission statement in one sentence. In the last several years, I've noticed the average nonprofit director struggle with balancing all of the responsibilities that come along with running a nonprofit. We know that list is very long. And then alongside learning the ever-evolving technology that was designed to help us do our jobs more efficiently and effectively. We could argue whether or not that's the case most times. So tell me, kind of hypothetically, do any of these sound familiar to you? You're creating a document and then you spend way too much time trying to find that very same file when you need it. Or you're updating last year's appeal letter, you open it up only to wonder, haven't I already done that? Is this the most recent version? Didn't we do this before? Didn't so-and-so make a change? Then you've got the endlessly sorting through emails to find that one email from that one person who needed you to do that one thing, but it's not there. the average person, nonprofit or not, wastes a ton of time sorting through files, trying to find documents, searching emails for the same word over and over again. So we think, right, there's got to be a better way. And unfortunately, there are a lot of companies out there pushing paid products on you. Nonprofits, I found, are a really easy target audience for companies to pitch their products to, saying, oh, this is going to make you more effective. This is going to help you do fundraising a whole different way. What they really want is your money. So I was thrilled to be able to put together some tools for nonprofits that are completely free. We'll talk about the one caveat that you have to have before you can use these tools, but that too is a free solution. So, and yes, they really are free. I want to help you. This is kind of that imagine if, right? I want to help you maximize your efficiency, streamline the workflow, stop wasting time doing the same thing over and over again. I want to help you reduce frustrations, whether it's fighting with PowerPoint or Microsoft Word or whatever program you're working in. I want to help you be able to communicate and collaborate more effectively, so that the time you do spend behind the computer is well spent. So whether that's appointments with donors, making thank you calls, defining your strategy and your vision, not working behind the computer. And that last check mark is really the big one. I want to help you do the things that matter more effectively. So sharing documents, making edits without the endless back and forth emails, all of those kind of things. So, and again, there really is a free solution out there. Oh, I've already lost my little window. Bear with me just a second here. So we're going to walk through, my goodness, I'm sorry, my window situation here on my computer is rough. Are you all still seeing the full slide on the screen? Uh-oh.
No.
What do you see? My computer is, my Zoom
Google
window.
Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, Google Drive.
Oh, okay.
But it's kind of compressed.
Oh, it's cut off. I see.
Yeah.
I see. Okay, let's hang on just a second.
It looks like we're seeing the right side of the screen.
There we go. Is that better?
Yep.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Nope.
Okay, so we're going to walk through these 4 basic tools. If we have time, I want to show you a few extra as well. But basically, we're going to walk through the 4 primary tools from Google that really help you manage everything. My goal is that you don't have to worry about the tech. These programs are going to include Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, and Google Drive. So you can see those on the screen there. But before we dive in, I want to take a little poll because, as I said a second ago, there's one little caveat to be able to use these tools. So I think Amy's going to share a poll with you, and we're going to ask you here, how many of you currently have a Gmail account, whether or not that's business or personal? I want to know if you have an actual Gmail account. And while those responses are coming in, if you don't, or somebody watching the recording, if you don't have a Gmail account, this is free, and it is necessary to take advantage of the tools we're going to cover today. Looks like everybody, we've got 14 yeses and no nos yet. So to create a Gmail account, it's really simple. You just go to gmail.com. In the upper right-hand corner, you see a button to create an account. It's just like creating any other email account. You don't have to use it as your primary email at all, but it will be required to access these tools. So we're just going to kind of put that out there to begin with. But it looks like almost everybody, I think we had a couple not respond, but all of you are, that's not an issue. So that's great. All right. So let's dive into the Google Docs. All right, now I've got the poll in my window here. Okay, so like I said, the first one we want to dive into is the Google tool I think you would use the most, and that's Google Docs. So you've most likely either used Microsoft Word or the Apple equivalent, which is Pages. Those are word processing programs. Depending on the type of computer you have, they're all pretty similar. But you also may have encountered some of those problems. So it's like someone sends you a document and you don't have the same version they had that they used to create it. And this can cause some problems. And we also get into what we talked about at the beginning in terms of saving files. We can't find them, managing the file storage, accessing them easily. And those are actually the reasons I love Google Docs the most. I almost exclusively use Google Docs. Occasionally, now I'm a Mac user, so occasionally I'll use Pages. But while there's not really anything extra I can do in Google Docs in terms of formatting or those kind of things, it's all about the benefits that when it comes to collaboration. So let's talk about, I'm going to give you a couple examples on the screens, but I want to tell you about a couple practical uses of Google Docs. So the first that I mentioned would be collaboration. So let's say you're working on a grant application and you need to draft a part of the document, and you need some input from other members of your staff or your board or your finance person. Instead of the old way of creating that document on your local computer, say using Word, and then you email that document to someone else, right? And you ask them to make their changes, then maybe they have to pass it on to someone else, all while you have no idea what's going on with that document, right? They're kind of in control of it. You can't see the changes. Google Docs really takes that process and turns it upside down. So now you've got a process where you can create the doc, you can share it with whoever you'd like to share it with. That gives them access to edit the document. At any time, you can open it, even if they have it open, and you can see the changes they've made. You can see when they last accessed the document. And most importantly, you've got one cohesive document at the end of the process. So again, this really works great with grant applications. I always encourage nonprofits, if you're applying for a grant, answer those questions in a Word document, or in this case, a Google Doc first. Get all your language squared away, and then you can just copy and paste your answers into the application itself. One that gives you a nice clean copy of what you've already used. So hint, hint, you can reuse that same language. But again, in this part of the process, it really lets you crowdsource it. You could even, let's say you get that grant document, all those questions answered. Now you could give some view-only access to your board chair and have them give it a look over before you submit it, especially if the organization is asking for approval from your board. So that's definitely one really practical use of Google Docs. The other use that I use a lot are for documents that you need to update periodically. So most of you, or if you don't, you should have some sort of employee handbook, even if you're a 1 or 2 person shop. And we've got that situation, right? We've got the handbook saved, and then we hire a new person and we're trying to find the handbook, and oh, it hasn't been updated, and we've got to update it real quick. Oh, maybe I should send that out to the other staff. So instead of having that situation, you create one Google Doc with your handbook, share that with just internal team members, right? But at any time you can bring up that document, update it, and now every employee automatically has access to that updated document. Now, if you're wondering, yes, you can restrict access so that not everyone can edit the document. Maybe some people, you just want them to be able to view it, and then specific people can have permission to edit or even make a copy of the document for themselves. This also works great for board members. So you can create, we're going to talk about this more in a second, but you can create an entire folder. Just share the folder with your board and give them viewing permission. So in that folder, you've got a board meeting agenda, you've got meeting minutes, your financial reports. That folder can be a mix of docs and sheets and slides, whatever you want in that folder. And then if you have a board member who might miss a meeting, not that that ever happens, right? You can simply direct them to that folder, and then all of the meeting documents are right there in the folder for them. So those are two.
We have a quick question. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So the question is whether the Gmail account is required for all participants. For example, if you just want board members to be able to view something, do they have to have a Google account? Do they have to have a Gmail address?
That's a great question. So to view the document, they do not have to log in. If you're giving somebody editing permission or you want them to make a copy of the document, then they would have to log in to do that feature. So yes, they would have to have a Gmail, but just to be able to view a document, they would not have to have one. Great question. The last thing we'll say here for practical uses would be in terms of creating a checklist. And it's not one that we would use a lot, but if you do the same process a lot, so when I was the United Way director, I created a board meeting prep checklist. And so before every board meeting, I would go down through my checklist. These are the things I have to do before every board meeting. That way, I'm not kind of forgetting something last minute. So being able to create like a Google Doc or a Google Sheet, which we'll get to in a second, to create a checklist works really well. And then again, you can share that with specific team members if they have a role in the checklist as well. So those are some real basic practical uses of Google Docs. And I'm going to show you one here in a second. To get to Google Docs, and again, this is where it comes in that you have to have that Gmail account. You log into your Gmail account, and then you're going to see that little grid right there at the top of the Gmail window that looks like a square made out of dots. That is your app menu. And when you click on that, then you would just go ahead there and click on Docs, and that would launch Google Docs. Now, bear with me just a second while I switch over my screen and show you. So tell me, do you guys see that Google Doc example? Yes, okay.
Yes.
So this is just, again, it looks very similar to just a Microsoft Word screen. You've got a formatting bar up here at the top. We're not talking about doing anything fancy design-wise. We're talking about the tool and capacity to collaborate. So a couple of things that I love, obviously, I love the word count. Now you have that in Microsoft Word as well, but you can go in and very easily see what your word and character counts are. Very important when you are doing your grant applications that give you some restrictions. I use voice typing all the time, and I don't think that's a standard feature in Word. If it is, I'm missing it. And again, I'm on a Mac. That literally voice typing, all I have to do is turn that on, talk, and it just types it for me. Then I can go back and clean it up. I write almost everything that way. I can also have a lot of options up here to review suggested edits. So once I give someone permission and they make some changes, I'll be able to see what they changed, and then I can comment on those, or I can accept or delete their changes. So some great collaboration tools here. To share is really simple. We just go up here to the big share button, and we really have two, and this works for every kind of Google tool I'm going to show you. We have two options. We can share it with someone specific. So in this case, if I wanted to share this document with Amy, I would just populate her email address up here. That's pulling from my contacts. Then I can say whether or not I want her to be able to view it, to comment, or to edit. Again, to view, she wouldn't have to be logged in, but to comment or to edit, she would. I can add a little message here, and then if I hit send, it's basically going to send her a link to open the document. If I want to just send a link to someone, I can click down here on this change, and I have lots of options. So I can restrict people. I can say anybody with this link can view this document, or I can restrict it to people within my organization, or I can even kind of get further down than that. But in this case, if I wanted just to randomly send you guys this link, I could just copy the link and put this in the chat box, and all of you could open that on your computer. So sharing is not hard, no tech to figure out there, really, really intuitive. And then we've got some other, if we're asking people to comment, we can go in and see the comment history as well. So that in a nutshell is Google Docs. And again, the big advantage to Google Docs is going to be the collaboration feature that we have here. Any questions or thoughts about Google Docs and what we're doing with that? I'll let Amy kind of manage that process here. If not, we'll move on to the next one.
I have a question.
Okay.
So I'm currently working on a Google Doc with several other people, and the comments are getting out of hand. There's like 6 people 6 people, I think, working on the same document. And so we were looking at today the change history.
Okay.
We were discussing that. And I was having a hard time trying to figure out who changed what, and they were saying like that we were assigned different colors, but I was only seeing like, we were seeing different colors on our different screens. I don't know if this is I don't know if I'm even asking the right question or anything. I was just trying to figure out, like, under the change history, how to tell who was changing what.
Who made that? Okay. That's a good question. My first thought would have been, okay, it should have assigned you colors, but you've already kind of addressed that. Without having kind of looking at the document itself, I would have a hard time to help you, but that is the system of the color code is supposed to help with that. You could always have somebody, and I know this is a little bit tedious if you have lots of people, but you could have people kind of in their change with their initials, and then you could kind of just, whichever change you accept, you could kind of wipe that back out. But the color coding system is supposed to help that. If you want to invite me as a viewer to the document, I'd be happy to take a look at it and see if I can see if there's a setting in there that's been missed or what's happening there. But I'm happy to know you're using it. There's that many people collaborating, but you're highlighting the other side of the process. And when you get a lot of hands in there, sometimes when I've had a larger group, I will give everyone permission to view it, and then kind of ask them to corral their feedback and then add all their feedback at the end of the document. So that's another way, instead of like changing the actual sentence, because then if you got one person changes it, and then, for example, like, one person changes the first word and then the next person says, well, I don't like that first word, then you've got to accept one of those, right? So you could have everyone drop their changes at the end, and then whoever's ultimately in charge of the document could go in and just incorporate the winner, if you will. But I'd be happy to look at it if you want to send me some view only access to see if there's another solution there.
Andrea, we have another question.
Okay.
What editing features are limited in Google Docs versus Microsoft?
None that I'm aware of. Anything. So if any of you have used track changes in Microsoft Word, you have all the same capability here in Google Docs. I haven't found anything that I can't do here that I can do in Word or Pages. Now, I don't design in Google Docs. You can add, you can very easily add images. You can add tables and drawings and charts and all those kind of things. I don't tend to do that because I design in other programs. And if I'm designing, for example, if I'm doing a report that I think is going to be really visual, I'm probably not going to use Docs for that. But I haven't found any functionality that's missing here that you have in Microsoft Word.
Okay, and what about formatting features?
Yep.
Same question.
Yep, all the same styles. Right up here is your font menu. It's going to pull fonts, all your basic fonts, and you can actually upload your own as well. You've got all your formatting tools here, links, justifications, bullets, all that kind of stuff. And then you actually have I feel like this is a little more intuitive than even in Microsoft Word. If you're going to have a really long document, and you can add some subheadings, and what happens, I'm going to just show you real quick here. So if we make this a heading 2 as well, so then we can go over here to, oops, I was already on. We can go over here, and if we have this set to view the document outline, we can jump from heading to heading over here really easily. And this is really helpful if you have a really long document. The other really cool feature I love, and I'm not sure how practical it is for most people, but if you do this, and let's say you have 10, 12-page document, you can go up here and insert a table of contents automatically, and it's going to read your page numbers use your subheadings. And then if you're moving text around, these are going to update automatically. So for example, if I add some text up here, you'll see that this, and I refresh this, you would see this change to page 2. So, of course it's not updating because I'm scared to I'm scared to do anything and lose. There we go. So that table of contents feature alone for me, if I'm doing a long document, that's worth so much time right there, because especially if you've got handbooks or volunteer orientation manuals, all those kind of things that have multiple pages, this takes you forever. And every time you make a change, if you've done this manually, you've got to go back and figure out, oh, okay, what page is that heading on? So I really like that feature.
We also have, Katie, could you add to the conversation about the editing and the shared editing that Stacy asked about?
Yeah, so I am part of a shared folder, and we edit documents really regularly. And because it's a shared folder and it's shared only to the people within that folder, you would know who was making edits. So there's a difference in terms of like making a document shareable to anyone who has a link. And then people that make edits via that way, you don't have a record of who's making the edits. Whereas when you share it with specific people or a specific organization with specific emails, you can track who is commenting. And the way that we do it that is typically really effective is everybody who is not the owner of the document only suggest changes, which you can do in Google Doc really easily. And then the editor, the owner of the document, can approve changes. And in some respects, if the owner is approving changes as you go, that is helpful too. But the only challenge that I have noticed is we put out a Black Lives Matter statement, and that was a little bit more of a controversial document to get like aligned with our mission and everything like that. So there were so many suggested edits that it made it a little bit hard to read. But otherwise, you can always see who makes the edits, and suggesting is a really handy tool that Google Docs has that Microsoft doesn't have as, it's not as accessible or user-friendly in my opinion, and it works pretty well.
Yes, I think she should be leading this session. I wasn't sure how in the weeds to get with that, but she's absolutely right. When you get in and start messing around with this, definitely you want to have some protocols when you share it of what you expect other people to do. And she's absolutely right. If you can direct people to suggest changes versus actually giving, having them make the edits themselves, it's going to make that management process a lot easier. I do find with most of the smaller nonprofits, they're not using all of those full capabilities. So I definitely suggest you get in and kind of play around with it. Maybe start with just sharing with one person in your office, and you guys kind of learn how to use it and then go from there. But that's a great point to make. Thank you. Okay, any other Google Doc questions? Okay, we're going to go on then to Google Sheets. And so Google Sheets is the second tool we're going to talk about. And this is your equivalent of either Microsoft Excel if you're using a PC, or Numbers if you're using a Mac. So we have, again, this is all about collaboration, and sometimes people get nervous when we say Excel. They're like, oh, I'm not sure. My goal with Sheets is really just to give you a basic introduction, and again, just kind of stress those collaboration tools, but also this is a great way to ease into learning some really easy basics that make your life easier as a nonprofit leader without the intimidation of Microsoft Excel. So let's talk about some practical uses for Sheets. So mail merges, this is one of those things that I see a lot of nonprofits miss the mark on, and it's not because they can't do it, it's difficult, they're just not making two programs talk to each other. So at the risk of getting too much in the weeds, a really simple use of a Google Sheet. And there's two scenarios here. One, you don't have like a real CRM donor database. You're just kind of using a homegrown system, which is fine. You could do some very simple columns from your last appeal letter that show your donors address, and their last gift amount, right? That becomes your Google Sheet. Then over in your Google Doc or your Microsoft Word, you're going to use the mail merge features to bring in that data. So that way, if my last gift was $100 and you're sending me an appeal letter, you can, say, Andrea, we really appreciated your gift of $100, and we're asking if you could you please do a gift of $250 this fall? And, of course, then all the reasons why. So now I've personalized a letter. I'm going to send the letter anyway. I'm not out any money. I just have to do a little bit of work to make my two documents talk to each other. So Sheets is a great way to store that information. Now, if you do have a CRM, great. If it'll do that for you, obviously do it with your CRM. But you can also export that data from most of those systems into Excel. And guess what? You can open Sheets and then tell it to open the Excel sheet, and now you're working in Google Sheets. So really great practical use there for Sheets. The other one I'm gonna show you an example of a Google Sheet that I created that's really simple, that does some really great math. And the good news is you're going to have immediate access to it, so you can have a copy of it and use it as well. And this is just to demonstrate that formulas are not scary. They do not have to be complicated, but they can really help you. So I'm going to go over to this is a drive, which again, we're going to get to, where I'm storing all of these documents within my drive. And I'm going to open my copy of this Google Sheet. So you can see this looks very much like Excel. We have basically the same features. The formula options and things like that, they are not as robust in Sheets, but I do find that most nonprofits are not doing those complicated features anyway. My husband is an analyst for a bank, and the stuff he does in Excel blows my mind. So I had him look at this and be like, did I mess anything up? And he said I didn't. So this is, again, a really simple sheet. Some people think you're limited to typing inside these little squares, and this obviously shows you that you are not. I've dropped my logo at the top of this. But this is simply a really quick tool to help, especially if you're doing a short-term campaign. So let's say this fall, you need to raise $25,000 between now and December. That's your goal, right? So I'm going to type in this square here at the top. I'm going to type in 25,000 as my goal. And what I can do then is play around with the gift amounts and gift quantities to see how many gifts at each level I need to make this happen. So everybody's still there, right? It got really quiet. So let's say I know I already have 5 people willing to give $5,000. So I know that's a given. And I know I've got 10 that are willing to give me 2,500, but I don't know these quantities yet. I shot too high. Let's say we have 5 people. Let's say we have 2 here. So what I can see down here is that this square is red, right? This is just called conditional formatting. And so because I'm not at my goal, this is still red. So I can play around with putting numbers in here at different levels until I get this square to turn green. And now I know that $25,000 sounds really intimidating, but all I really need are 2 $5,000 donors, 5 $2,500 donors, and 10 $500 donors. And I have met my goal with a little bit extra. And I know that would make my average gift $1,600. A really, really simple tool that you can use. I'm going to give you the link to make a copy of this document so you can have it. The instructions are right down here. You don't want to mess with these squares, but if I click in here, you'll see that these are just really simple formulas that are doing the math. And then this is just using a really simple tool called conditional formatting that says, hey, if this number is equal to or above this number up here, I want you to turn it green. If not, it's going to be red. So give me some reactions of what you think about Excel and Sheets. Is it something you use? Is it something you don't use? And what do you think about this little tool? No feedback so far. Okay, so this is the downside of being online, is the feedback is null and void here.
We have a question though.
Okay.
Can you,
Oh, can you what?
sorry about that. Can you lock cells to prevent formulas from being overwritten?
In Excel, you can. I have not found that functionality in Sheets. I might be missing it. That's why I kind of did my best to just kind of put a square around this and shade it. That is absolutely a feature of Excel, and you could do this exact same thing in Excel. Of course, I'm demonstrating Sheets today, so I wanted to make it in Sheets. I'm still searching for a way to do that in Sheets. And if they don't have that functionality, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see it added soon. Because yes, that would be ideal to be able to lock those down. Again, if you're just using it for yourself, you know, if you're sharing it with a bunch of people, I'd be concerned about that. But this is really a tool just to kind of keep close to the vest, in my opinion, or with your small campaign committee or something. So that's one use of Sheets. Now, of course, this is the ideal tool for budgeting, right? I forget where. I know we've got a poll coming up about how you use what you use for budgeting. But this is great, especially if you're collaborating on a budget, right, with your finance committee. You create it in Sheets, and then you're sharing it with that small committee to get their feedback. You're playing with the numbers, all those kind of things. And you're not limited to kind of saving and you know, turning over access to that. I want to show you though to think outside the box with Sheets, because the other thing I use Sheets for is doing a social media calendar. So this is a content calendar, and you're thinking, well, why wouldn't you do that in Word? You absolutely could, but if you like working in Sheets, you can turn this into a calendar just by playing with your row height and your column width, and you can create your content calendar. And here, having a tab, you know, for each month, so you can come back and look and see what you shared the previous month. So it's a great little way to plan your content out as well. And again, you've got your standard formatting bar up here that we all use in Excel, your charts and graphs and all those kind of things as well. So,
Andrea, I have a question. Back on that calendar thing, how do you get those like more like graphic looking things into?
this is just a photo, so you can insert any kind of an image, and then you can just rotate it. And I just rotated it and put it sideways instead of doing something boring at the top. I actually created, I had a client who wanted me to create a content calendar for them. And so I made theirs a little fancier than I made my own. And so this is actually a watered down version of theirs. But yeah, that's just an image that's turned sideways.
Okay,
Yeah.
That looks nice.
Well, the one thing I love about doing the calendars in Excel is you don't have to worry about getting all things aligned. And some people like this visual view. I do a free writing prompts every month, and it's just a list of ideas. And so it's just, you know, 2 columns of text basically. But I personally like the calendar view, because then I can kind of see at a glance what I have planned.
Alvin helped us out here. He says he did a quick Google search about locking cells in Google Sheets, and he says there is a way to do it.
Oh, well, fantastic. Well, I've missed that. So the Google's our friend. See, thanks, Alvin. So Alvin, if you want to drop that link you're using in the chat, I can grab that and make sure I add that to the post webinar screen so everybody else can see that as well. As sure there's a way. I haven't spent a lot of time messing with it, but this is one of those things that I use with clients all the time, because we all know those fundraising goals sound daunting until we break them up. And this is just the old-fashioned version, is, you know, the actual pyramid on paper that we used to do. And this is just kind of bringing it into 2020. So, okay, any other questions about Google Sheets? Accessing them works the exact same way as Word. We're just going, or as Docs, we're going to go to the app grid and then click on Sheets, and then you can start with a blank document or the template. Now, when you grab the gift pyramid, let me switch over here. You're going to go to my resource library, and when you click on the link, you're going to log into Gmail. And when you click on the link for the gift pyramid, you're going to get a screen that pops up that asks you if you want to make a copy of it. So you're going to make a copy of it, then you're going to have that sheet and you can do whatever you want with it. Okay, well, for the sake of time, we'll keep moving on to Google Slides. So, all right, tell me if any of these kind of sound familiar to you. You either get overwhelmed when you open PowerPoint and you get frustrated with the details, like why can't I just move that box over there and why doesn't it line up? Or you're either using the same presentation over and over again because you don't want to mess with changing the slides, it's too much work. Or you're starting over every time, spending a lot of time doing, slides when you just want it to be simple. And I know that we're in a time where we're not all going out to Rotaries and Civics Clubs and making those presentations. There will be a time, I'm sure, that we will get back to doing that. So if you're tired of fighting with PowerPoint, I want you to learn how to use Google Slides. Now, for demonstration purposes, it's easy because what you're watching is a Google Slides presentation. So you can see that I've used all of the standard graphics and features and all those things that, that I would also have access to in PowerPoint. And because we're so grateful that you're supporting Amy and Nonprofits Lead, I am actually giving everyone who registered for this webinar a free Google Slides template to use. You can see a mock-up of it there on the screen. Now, this is a paid product in my shop, but I'm making it all available to all of you for free, and we'll talk about how to get that at the end of the presentation. So, but we know that all great presentations are based, are more than just what the slides look like, right? We have to have the right information in the right order. We have to show the impact. We have to deliver all that information effectively. So what I think Google Slides can do is not really help you make a standout design, but I think it takes all of the tech frustration out of the process so that you can focus on the content and you can focus on the messaging. And again, that's what we know really matters at the end. So again, it functions just like PowerPoint, but it's much easier to use in my opinion. You can start with an absolutely blank presentation or a template. So either way you go. Again, you're gonna have a free template from me to use to help you get started. But there are a couple of features about Google Slides that I really love. One is that you can access your slides with no internet connection. So this has happened to me on more than one occasion. A couple times previous to using Google Slides, and then thankfully a couple times after I learned how I can avoid this. So I've went out to make a presentation to a group. I've got my PowerPoint all ready to go, and then there's no internet connection, right? And I've got some embedded features and all these things, and it's just a real pain. But Google Slides, you don't have to worry about that. You can access everything offline. So even though it is an internet tool, which scares some people, there are just a couple settings that you check off when you're creating your presentation. And even if you don't have any internet, you can bring up the presentation. Now, you can't share it or edit it without internet, but you can absolutely access it, which is great. And then the other feature I love is that you can really easily just download one slide at a time. You can save the whole presentation as a PDF, which you can do in PowerPoint as well. You can, did I say you can embed the presentation on your website, which you guys know I'm gonna love that feature as well. So there's just a lot of really great flexibility with it. And again, all the collaboration tools are here as well. So some practical uses, again, I know we're not doing a lot of in-person presentations right now, but you can create these to use online as well. If you're going to be doing some sort of Facebook Live presentation and sharing your screen, this is a great way to have some really professional looking slides. If you're doing volunteer or board member orientations, I think it really makes a great impact to have a short presentation to go along with that, keeps you focused, just kind of shows these folks that you care about, informing them right from the start. And then even with your board report, I've seen some larger nonprofits do this. you know, we give the executive director board report, and sometimes our board members are paying attention and sometimes they're not. You can, you know, just throw that board report into a slide format and just really get their visual attention as well. I do have a template in my shop for executive director board report template, and it comes with a Google slide deck as well that you can, so that the two are coordinated. So Google Slides is very functional. Unfortunately, I do not want to risk all of the tech to kind of show you within my presentation what's going on. But just again, just trust me when I say you've got all the same benefits of PowerPoint with a lot less headache, in my opinion. Lost my train of thought there. I was going to tell you one other thing. Oh, the really cool tool that I'm using that you can't see is that I have this little presenter window open on my computer that shows me how long I've had the slides going, my next slide, and my speaker notes. You guys can't see that, thankfully, but that's just a nice little perk of Google Slides as well. So definitely recommend giving that a try for your next presentation. And again, if you're curious how it's worked, grab the free template we're going to give you, then you can play around with that. So any questions on Google Slides? It's kind of a quick one, but accessing it is the same way. We're just going over to the apps grid and clicking on slides as well. Questions about that one? Okay. The last big tool I want to share then is Google Drive. And this is where kind of all the magic comes to life. So we talked there, you know, back at the beginning about, great, we have all these documents and hopefully you're organized. If you're one of those people that has a desktop full of icons, I'm looking at you, Amy, we just can't be friends. So I'm just kidding. That is not how I operate. I know that's a lot of other people operate, but Google Drive, I don't know how I would function without Google Drive. So basically we're talking about a visual storage system for your files that make things really easy to locate, to share, and to work with all from one screen. So instead of kind of opening up that Finder window on your computer and searching through all the folders and you know, visually, you don't know if that's the right document. Oh, that's not the right version. That whole process kind of goes away when we start using Google Drive. So the other great thing, as we've already mentioned, we can then share access to either an entire drive or a single folder or a single document. So we don't have to go, for example, if we're using this for our board, we can have a board folder, share access to the entire folder, and then anything we drag in and out of the folder is automatically going to be accessible. We don't have to worry about sharing each individual document. The other thing I love, and right now is as pertinent as ever, is I'm not stuck with, oh, that file's on my computer in my office and I can't get to the office and I need to send that document. Not that I advocate working after hours or weekends, but if many of you are working from home, then you know this can be a huge benefit to have access to your files anywhere you are. So you can see there a screenshot of kind of my Google Drive where I've got lots of folders. Now I also have some files that aren't in folders. Listen, I do the best I can some days too, but really the ability to organize this is fantastic. So again, just some practical uses. We can create that shared folder or an entire drive with our board. We can share the folders with specific people. I mean, think about your volunteers. You could have one folder that has your volunteer policy or handbook, your procedures, the volunteer schedule, any documents you need them to work on. I mean, you could even come up with a quick just Google Doc that says, you know, has each of their names and here's what I want you to focus on Monday. And, you know, that's just living there. And if you think of one last thing, right, you just pop on the Google Doc, add it on the list, and they're going to automatically see that update. So I see this being a really good tool for volunteer management. And then again, having access to what you need remotely. So Google Drive, you saw me open it here a little bit ago. You can see here that I have my own drive, and then I have a folder here for today's presentation that I can then get a link to the folder. I can add shortcuts. I can very easily add something new to the folder. So if I want to upload a file I already have on my computer, I can drop that in the folder, or I can click here on Google Docs and search all of my docs for what I want to move in or out of the folder. I can also drag them around, which is nice, and put them different places. So just a really intuitive tool to use, and definitely if you're going to start using docs or sheets or slides or any of those, Google Drive is going to be a great tool for you to use. So any questions about Google Drive?
I was wondering how secure it is. Like if you put sensitive information on there, like client information, what are the liability or whatever, how safe is it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're talking about cloud storage, right? So anytime we put anything on the internet, we're in some ways releasing a little bit of control versus having it on our computer. Now, I would argue sometimes that it takes more skill to get into a document that's been uploaded and requires a password to get to versus your computer, which is accessible to somebody walking in your office, getting on while you're out to lunch or those kind of things. So remember that if you are putting something in Google Drive, you had to log into your Gmail account. So you want to make sure that your account itself is secure. I think Gmail has one of the best security features out there, personally, much better than, say, Yahoo or Hotmail or those kind of clients can tout. So you would have had to log in to create the document and have it stored there. And then again, you're in control of who you share it with. So it may be that you can't use that feature because of client confidentiality, or that you can have some kind of policy in place to say, if you access these documents, you're agreeing to keep these confidential as well. But you just want to be careful. So you may not be a candidate to use that share feature where you can share it with anyone with just a link, but you might want to just give access to a handful of people who, again, have had to log into their Gmail account to access it or to edit or save it.
Well, I'm just thinking about inner office. It would be so easy to not wait for the report from the one department to come up, the senior volunteers report. I could just look online and it'd be there every time they added somebody.
Absolutely.
Usually I like that idea. Great.
That's really where this comes down to being. That's why we kind of titled this "Collaborate Effectively," because I think we all spend a lot of time waiting for that. Have they updated it yet? Is this the right version? Those kind of conversations really all stop when we're all looking at one sheet or one report that we can see changes in real time. And if you got one person in the office right now and one person at home, that's okay. We can both be working on it. Now, I've seen a few glitches when I can't remember who it was mentioned having, I think it was Stacy, had so many people working at one time. It can get a little glitchy if you've got 6 or 7 people in there working. It's supposed to work simultaneously, but in most cases, if you've got 1 or 2 editors, no issue having that most updated version.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Oh, I was just going to say, I would recommend if you have sensitive information, that you do have some policies in place just to remind people that they need to be logged into their account and keep their account secure as well, and just take that into consideration for how you use the features.
Andrea, another question for you. Is there a storage limit on Google Drive?
That's a good question. There is, but it is really, really big. I can't remember offhand, but Google gives you a ton of storage. So unless you're storing some like I wouldn't recommend it for photographers who are working with really large original images. But when you're talking about just documents or sheets and even slides, I don't think anybody will come close to the storage limits. Yeah, I'll find out what that number is though. Okay, For the sake of time, we'll just keep moving along here. So we've gone through those 4 big ones: Docs, Sheets, Slides, and then Drive, to kind of keep it all organized. But I do want to tell you about 4 other Google tools that are free. These could each really be their own session. There are that many options regarding how as nonprofits we could use them, but I just want to make sure you're aware of them. And then I'm happy to have individual conversations if you're interested in diving deeper in any of these. So the first one is what's called G Suite. So when we started talking about this webinar, we talked about having a Gmail account. That's just a simple email account that we're using to log in. For example, I have an account that's Andrea Shirey 1914 at Gmail. But you'll notice for my business email, it's Andrea at oneninedesign.net. What you wouldn't know from looking at that email is that that's actually a Gmail account, but it was created using G Suite. So it is their professional suite of products that is tied to my website domain. And I highly recommend as nonprofit directors that we have custom email addresses. Now, for big organizations like Red Cross or United Way, we know we have all those features, but sometimes, especially if you're applying for grants and you're sending emails to major donors and you're doing that from a Hotmail account, or I saw a Juno account the other day and I thought, this can't work, but it did. They're still using Juno. I didn't know it existed still. I think by having a professional email address, you just really have a lot more credibility to your organization. Setting it up is free for nonprofits, but it does require a little bit of tech. And so if you're interested in setting up a G Suite account, I would be more than happy to talk with you directly about that process and what kind of tech information you're going to have available when you set it up. You're just entering some technical terms and linking it basically to the host of your website. So if you have a website, I should have added that. If you have a website, and you want your email address to match that, you can do that free with G Suite. And I know, because some of you are my clients, I know some of you are paying for that service and you do not have to pay for that. Is it a pain to switch? Yes, if we're moving from one paid service to a free service, we're going to have some downtime and some tech issues there. But overall, if you can save them money, you're paying for your email address, I always recommend that you do that. At the very least, find out what you're paying, know what you're paying for, and then you can make the decision whether or not it's worth the hassle to switch over to G Suite. The next tool, free tool, is Google Forms. And Google Forms is super easy and intuitive to use. Amy, I've seen you use this before. I see a lot of nonprofits collecting information via Facebook, either Messenger or comments, and it's so much work and it's just not necessary. There are a lot of paid form tools out there, but Google Forms is free. It's intuitive. You can create any kind of an online form to collect information, whether that's someone signing up for an event, collecting t-shirt sizes, to doing a survey. You can do that all on Google Forms. And so you'll see when you go to your little app grid where we went to select docs or sheets, Forms is one of those apps, and it will visually walk you through that. So I encourage you to check out Google Forms. If you do any kind of registration process manually right now, Google Forms is really easy to use. The next free tool is Google My Business. And this one is, again, it could be a whole webinar in itself, but what I'll just say here today is Google yourself, and then you're going to see what Google My Business is all about. So I'm going to bring up a Google tab here. And I'm going to Google OneNine Design. I'm super happy that I'm still the first Google result. That really helps me with my SEO business. But Google My Business is right here. So when you do a Google search and you see this block to the right, this is pulling from what's called Google My Business. So it is Google's way of giving a user more information using their own tool. Of course, they love it when we use their tools. You can add photos. At a minimum, you should have your hours and your phone number. If you're a nonprofit that wants physical visitors, you want to have your physical address. You can actually have many little, like basically little mini blog posts on Google My Business. It will automatically pull in your Facebook reviews, which is great. But you can also, it will also show any reviews that have been left for you via Google. It's going to most of the time link over to your Facebook profile. So why would you use this? You want to use Google My Business because anytime we use Google's tools, they like it, right? They're a little bit selfish. But if you are having trouble having people find you on the internet, so volunteers don't know you exist, or you really just want to kind of get your name out there and build more awareness, Google My Business is a great tool to use, especially if you don't have a great website. If you have a website, I still suggest you use Google My Business because, again, it's using their tools and you can drive people to your website that way. But if you don't have a website, absolutely Google My Business is a tool that you should be using. Again, we could go into an entire webinar about Google My Business, but basically what I want you to do is Google yourself. If this is not look the way you want it to look, now I'm logged in, so it knows that I own this because I get this edit your business information. But if you're not logged in and you haven't claimed this, you're going to see a little line here that says, like, do you own this business? Basically, you want to follow the process from that link, and they're going to have you verify that you do own that business or that nonprofit in your case. And they're going to walk you through the steps to verify that. And then you would have access to go in there and edit your Google My Business profile. And that is an app from your drop down. So once you're logged into Google, where we went to Google Docs, if you just scroll down a little bit, you'll see the My Business icon, and you can use that to edit your profile. It's not something that requires daily attention at all. I try to update mine like once every 2 weeks or so, and I'm probably behind right now, but it is a nice little tool to use. And then the last bonus tool we want to talk about are Google Ad Grants. And again, an entire webinar in itself about Google Ad Grants. Basically, I get so many questions asking me if it's a scam. It is not a scam. Google will give you, as a qualified nonprofit, up to $10,000 each month in Google Ad credit to run ads on Google. And that means basically, no, I didn't see any. So if I searched website design in Parkersburg, so these people right up here are running a Google ad. This is just one way to look at it. So Google ads, are they great for nonprofits? It depends. Google Ad Grants are, it's a great program, but I can tell you that it is time consuming to manage, and the qualifications to keep the grant are pretty high. So you have to really be very confident in why you want to run an ad, what you want to get out of it, and you have to have a robust website to make that program really worth your time. I work with a company out of Canada called Connect Ad. They are great guys. They are experts in this area. So if you are interested in Google Ad Grants, if you have a really strong campaign coming up and you already have your website in place and you want to talk about Google Ad Grants, I'm happy to connect you with them, and you can talk to them about their services. It's a paid service, but it's absolutely worth it because again, managing that money every month can be time consuming, and if you don't actively manage that Google Ad Grant, they will not renew it. So month to month, you're kind of fighting to keep it. So any questions on those 4 Google bonus tools?
We have a couple questions in the chat.
Okay.
What would you say to advice for somebody who thinks that they're starting to approach their storage max on their Google Drive?
Oh,
Join other files
I
there.
have never had that situation happen. So I would just encourage you to go in and review what you've got on there. Photos are going to take up the most space. Obviously, documents themselves are very small, as are Excel sheets. So I would just you can, when you're in Google Drive, you can very easily, so let's say this graphic was taking up a bunch of space. I can just come open that. I can just go right here to the arrow, download it. It just downloaded to my computer, and then I can just delete it out of the drive. So I would just say assess, just like any, we have that problem with our phones. We have that problem with our computers, just like anybody else. Oh, I see my storage right here. I have 30 gigs of storage, and I'm using a fraction of it. And I have 3 years worth of data on my drive. So, I would just say, just to review what you've got up there, download what doesn't have to be. Keep in mind that this is the uses for Google Drive: sharing, collaboration, easy access. If it's an old document that you're not really using anymore, or you don't need to share, collaborate, it probably doesn't need to be stored on your drive.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Is there anything that you use where you prefer Word or Excel to the Google Docs or Sheets?
For Word, no. And now again, I'm on a Mac, so I have Pages, which I do not like. But I almost exclusively use Google Docs for that type of document. Excel, I will bounce back and forth, but I do, like for my business, I have some Excel sheets that are a little more complicated, some formulas, some tables, those kind of things. But for basic use, I don't see any reason, any functionality you're going to lose unless you're doing advanced formulas in Excel. That it?
Yeah, we do have one participant that would like to be connected to learn more about Google Ads, because they do have a grant and they've just taken over managing it. So I'm going to make sure that you have each other's information.
Let me know if you want to send me an email with their email address, and then I'd be happy to connect you to. It's Simon Choi over at Connect Ad, and just really great guys who love nonprofit work. They're in Canada, and I've worked with them with a couple of clients that I've sent to them, and I'm trying to get them to give me a promo code because I'm sending them so much business. So we're still working that out. So. Okay, so here's what I want to say next. We've covered a lot of information, right? And you're thinking, I don't know where to start. I'm not good with tech. I already have all these things in Word and Excel, and they're fine. And yes, I waste some time, but there's just too much going on to worry about a change. I get that. I do. It's time consuming, to make any kind of a learning curve. But I would encourage you to at least consider moving over to Drive or Docs. I think those are the two that really could change the way you collaborate either internally or externally with volunteers and boards. At the very least, take note of the next time you're looking for a file or you're trying to work on a document with somebody else, and maybe now you're going to kind of be a little more aware of that time that you're using to do those tools. I just really think that Google can help you move at a more efficient pace. And I tell my clients this quote all of the time: the capacity to learn is a gift, the ability to learn is a skill, and the willingness to learn is a choice. And so I know that right now in this environment, we've been asked to learn a lot of new tools. We've been asked to adapt in ways that we never thought we would. But I do think this is one of those places where it requires zero financial investment, which we all know is a gift right now, and that it can really help you. So what should you do next? The first thing I would encourage you to do is just kind of, again, decide which one of these tools makes the most sense for you. If you don't have a Gmail account, you're watching this on replay, get a Gmail account set up. And if you do, like I said, just pick one or two of these and just play around and explore. An easy way to do that is going to be to grab my Google Sheets gift pyramid template that I showed you, and I'm going to send you to a website where it has a link that you can make a copy of that, and then go ahead and get my Google Slides template for free so that you can play around with Google Slides as well. And so where are you going to do those things? You are going to and I did not put it on that slide. So you are going to go over to, and Amy's going to email this link out for us, but you're going to go over to oneninedesign.net/Google-webinar. And you're going to see this page. Right here are the directions to get your slide deck for free. And then some links to some other templates. And then the gift pyramid Google Sheet is over in the free resource library. So once you get to that, and you may find some other things in here you'd like to have as well. These are all free resources that I offer nonprofits. But if you go down here to coronavirus resources, right here is the gift pyramid calculator. And what's going to happen, I am logged in, so it's not going to work for me, but when you click on that, it's going to open a screen that asks you if you want to make a copy, and you're going to just say yes, and then you're going to see the sheet in your own Google account. So I think that is everything that's on here. You can, I also have, just unrelated to today's presentation, but you'll see here on this page, I have a guide to help you make some changes to your online giving page on your website so that you can start raising more money online. So if you want that, you can drop your email here and you'll get the guide emailed to you. And then you can follow me either over on Facebook or LinkedIn. I try to share tips and tricks and just things to think about as you're in the day-to-day trenches for your nonprofit work. So that is all I have for today. Unless you guys have other questions, I'm happy to stick around a few minutes and answer those. And then again, if you want to reach out to me about any of those other 4 tools that we didn't have time to dive into, I'm happy to have one-on-one conversations about those.
While everybody's thinking of their last minute questions, I want to remind you that Andrea would like to have permission to have your email address. So if you have not already, make sure you respond to my email requesting permission to share that email address with her, because she can do some inbox coaching with you. She's willing to do that. And she needs your email address to do that.
Yes. Somebody asked me this morning, what's inbox coaching? And that's a term that I thought was popular enough I didn't have to kind of go into detail. But if you're wondering, what does that mean? That means basically, I'm going to check in with you no more than once a week in the beginning, and then I kind of spread it out from there. But I just drop you little tips and tricks to related to the topic. And so in this case, it's going to be all about Google tools. And so if you want some encouragement, or it's a great way just to ask me one-on-one questions. Normally people would have to pay for inbox coaching, but I'm offering that to anybody that was on this webinar for free. And so it just requires your email address. If you tell Amy, yes, I'm up for inbox coaching, then I'll put you on that list, and we can talk that way.
Hey, Andrea, I have a question that I don't think we got to. I just wanted to pick your brain, is if there was anything that you can think of, and it's kind of off the top of your head, that you would prefer Microsoft Word or Excel over the Google Sheets, Docs or Sheets?
The only thing I can think of, not for Microsoft Word, I haven't found any tools in Microsoft Word that I can't do in Google Docs. And then of course the collaboration feature of Docs just pushes me over the edge with anything I'm doing there. If you're not collaborating at all, and you're just doing things for yourself, there's obviously no issue with Word. The only thing that would come up would be down the line. And this is happening more and more with some nonprofits. So I'm a Mac user. So if someone sends me a Word document, I have to open that in Pages, and then my formatting looks all funky. Now they're not asking me to do anything with it, so it's just an inconvenience on me, not on them. That's something to keep in mind as I think the world gets more and more Mac users. But with Excel, you do lose some formula functionality in Sheets. It's just not as robust. So it depends on what you're doing in Excel. But if you're just doing basic formulas, I mean, as you could see on this, you have, let me go over here to a new sheet. You have, you have pivot tables, which most people are not using. And you have most of your basic formulas in here. There are a handful that might be missing if you're doing some like really complicated stuff. But other than that, I don't see any reason that one is better, that Excel is better than Sheets. And you can very easily, if you have an Excel sheet and you want to kind of test it, you just go up here to open. And you can just upload from your computer. You can open the Excel document and then you can kind of see if anything is missing. So that would be a good way to test it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
We have another question in the chat. Are there any Google video tools?
Google video tools. In terms of creating video or editing video, is that the question?
No, in something that would replace Zoom.
Oh, so Google Meet is their equivalent. So you can see the icon for that right here, and it's Google Meeting is what it used to be. Now they're just calling it Google Meet. I don't know if anybody on the call has done a Google Meet or not. I have. It's a little. I think it's less intuitive than Zoom, but it's really about just preference. And then you have Google Hangouts, and so you could explore both of those and see if you like them. One thing Google does have is great documentation. So if you go up to, if you just type in Google Help, you'll get guides for almost everything, and you could kind of explore both Google Meet and Google Hangouts and see if you like either of those. But that's their equivalent to Zoom.
So the free Zoom version has a time limit. Do they have a time limit?
That is a good question, and I don't know the answer to that right off the bat. This is what Google Hangouts looks like, and then so you've got a nice little chat feature. I do not know the ins and outs. I've not created them. I've been on them as a participant, but that'd be something you could probably Google really quickly and find out.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Next question. Can you create tables in Sheets?
Yes. Yeah, that's one of your basic functions. So if we come over here, my mouse is dying, so it's getting really slow. Yep. So you just go down here, and depending on what you're trying to do, you know, what kind of table for, you've got all of the same features as Excel in terms of tables. And essentially, I mean, basically, your whole entire Excel sheet is a table, if you will. Now, if you're just creating a table with data, with just words and not numbers, then I would be doing that in Docs instead. So, so up here, you know, this will look just like you see in Microsoft Word. So if you're just talking about numbers or you don't need formulas, then I would stick to Google Docs for a table. But essentially Excel is one big table.
Okay, that's all the questions we have in the chat. Does anybody have any other questions?
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to share this with you guys. Again, let Amy know if you want some inbox coaching. Just tell her that you're okay with that, and I will get you added to that list. And then she will send out that link to this page, the Google webinar on my website, that again walks you through grabbing your free slide deck template. And you know, you guys reach out to me if I can help you with any other tools to help you do your job a little more efficiently.
Thank you so much, Andrea. This was
You're very welcome.
great. A lot of information, and this has been recorded, and so you'll receive a link to the recording as well as the links that Andrea mentioned, the resources that she's going to share.
Great. What's coming up next? I'll be your prompter.
Yeah, so in 2 weeks, we're going to have short-term strategic planning based on, COVID happening and all of the current events. What short-term strategic planning is needed right now.
Great. That is huge because I know we're all taking it day to day. So
Yeah.
Well, thanks again for everybody being on today for your time, and look forward to connecting with you in your inbox.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Andrea. Thank you, everybody, for participating.